Welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. This is Truth, Freedom, and Sophia with your host, Sophia, and shout out to super producer Cindy Ashby. All of our shows are live on onthewakeupradio.com. You can also catch replays on SoundCloud, Google, and Apple, Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook at On the Wake Up Radio. Also support us on PayPal /onthewakeupradio@gmail.com. OTWTube.com is our new platform, censored free. So it is all open content, all authentic content, uncensored. And we are on Cash App with $ on the Wake Up Radio. And also find us again on thewakeupradio.com to listen live. Check us out on OTWTube.com. Tonight's guest is Marisa Acocella, and we're going to be discussing her book, The Big Shebang. We're just waiting for Marisa to come on the line now. This book, I pretty much read the whole thing in one day. I actually have about, a little bit left. I haven't fully finished yet, but I love it. I love it because no matter what age you are, like you could be 15, and if you're spiritually, prepared or aware, you could read this book. She's a cartoonist. So basically, I'm going to read the back of the book. Hilarious, profound, and at times profane, The Big Shebang is a virtuosic storytelling in which the rules are bent back to where they should have started in the first place. It is abundantly clear that the past has been recorded in big books written by a bunch of men about a bunch of men. Now, Acocella challenges our understanding of humanity's past with her own big book. Narrated by God the Mother, The Big Shebang celebrates the Shevolutionaries, a goddess roster that includes Eve, the Marys, Virgin Mother, and Magdalene, Persephone, Sophia, Isis, Pope Joan, suffragettes, and so on. By Clegg-lightning, the ways women have been erased, vilified, and dominated across eons, blamed for original sin, destruction, betrayal, witchery, and other assorted and false evils and ills. Acocella sets the story straight from beginning of time to the present day. Not to be exclusionary, this new Her Story features cameos from, and it goes on to some other names. But so Marisa is a cartoonist from the New Yorker. She's the author of a New York Times bestselling graphic novel, Antenna, and Cancer Vixen. So I'm really excited to have her on as a guest tonight. I hope she's able to pop on soon so we can have the most amount of time. So basically what we're going to get into tonight is the patriarchy and this whole kind of war on women that has basically been happening to us since the beginning of history has been recorded. That's why it's called history. But that's a good play on words that she does. And so this is her story. A lot of it now have been made out to be evil, and women are blamed for original sin. Women are blamed for a lot, and I believe that women have been the longest persecuted people, because there are times, and still in some countries, we're not even we're second, third class citizens, and that's just disgusting, considering we should be revered and ultimately not worshipped, but honored, because we are all linked through our divine feminine to the mother goddess. And this book really gets into that, and it goes down the roster of goddesses and kind of how they're all linked in with the true mother goddess. Sorry, I'm trying to link into Marisa, trying to see if she's popping on. It's really important. So we talk about things like original sin, and Hammurabi's laws, which are the laws that basically inverted women into these second-class citizens who are, again, the cause of original sin and not to be trusted. Like, women weren't looked at very well, and that's me being kind of really polite. In the past, women were treated like a dog. Women were treated like a property. Your parents or your father dictated who you married. Everything about your life was not your own. It was dictated by someone else. She's having an issue getting on. She just messaged me back. Cindy, sorry. Sorry to interrupt this. My guest, I'm just talking to her, and she said she's having an issue getting on. So, do you need assistance? Sorry about that, guys. Really sorry about that. So, um, yeah, we'll get into all that, and I'm just waiting for her without giving too much away. I did. Um, there is a line in the book though that really pertains to right now, and it's kill the mother and the children are vulnerable. And this is basically, and in the story, she ties this into the kind of satanic elites right now, the archons, and that influence and what they're doing to us. And basically, archons are, yes, they are physical reptilian beings, but they're also psychic parasites that invade the human brain, and they hack into your head in your full frontal neural system, and they attack that part of you. So I really am excited to get into this because it's important. We need to, as women and just people in general, anybody, it's not really a sex thing or gender thing, but we need to, as women, understand our divine attributes, our divine feminine, and we need to bring that in again to this into this world, because that's what's lacking in this world right now. And it's becoming more and more apparent that women are being destroyed and on a whole nother level. Now it's not outright we're slaves or we're deemed second class citizens. Now they're trying to erase the definition of a woman, the beautiful attributes that make you a woman. I'm sorry, I keep saying women, a woman, and the God-given gift of life that we carry inside of us, and the abilities we truly have as women. There's a necklace I wear a lot, and it's the Mother Maiden Crone Necklace, and it's basically that is the life cycle of a female. You go from maiden to mother to crone, and the crone is the wise woman who's experienced life and has that to offer back. And I think that's really important because as a maiden, nowadays, as you're not a maiden anymore. You're immediately like you have so many perverted things thrown at you before you're even hitting puberty, that it's really hard to connect to your inner self at that age, say, of preteen, teenager, puberty. The hormones are changing, and that's the time when all these outside influences invade the mind. These archontic influences invade the mind and pervert and invert what it really means, and they jack your perception of what it really means to be a woman, and it derails you from truly being able to blossom into your womanhood into who you are as a female, and then connect to that divinity inside of you, that part of you that's connected to the goddess. So can you call her, Cindy? I have her phone number. I'm going to text it to you. Texting Cindy right now. Excuse me, friends. Okay, so hopefully Cindy and Marisa can get that figured out, what the issue is with her getting on. And that'll be great to have Marisa on and discuss all these things. I'm really curious on her perspective and how it all came together. It's written in like comic book style. That's why I said it's a really amazing book, and it's super easy to understand and read because of the style it's written in and the pictures. So if you're a person that really wants to understand these aspects, and you don't want to dig into Gnostic libraries that have, not not language in it that you would really understand, this is the book for you. This is a great book. It's great because it's written in language you can understand, in modern day language. It puts things in modern day perspectives that allow you to really kind of absorb and see the message that Marisa is trying to give through this beautiful book. So While we're waiting, we can talk about the patriarchy and this war on women and how, I brought it up earlier, how the term witches, what that really was about was the church basically in competition with independent, free-thinking, spiritually evolved women who were showing a different path, who were teaching a different path. And the path that they were teaching. Is that for me? Not for me? Sorry, I just received a message from my producer. So sorry. So, they were teaching that God is connected through yourself. You don't need a church. You don't need a person to pay off. You don't have to do all these things to get into heaven and be sucked into the system. These people were battling the system. They were trying to break that mental matrix that was in the beginning stages when it was being first induced upon us through the Vatican and the Holy Roman Empire and the horrors that they inflicted on people and women. The type of women that they were going after were a huge aspect of this, and they were a huge threat to their power because these women were called wise women. They were connected to the mother goddess. They were still practicing this uh, this reverence, this worship of the divine feminine, the divine goddess, the mother goddess, the supreme goddess. And they have us all programmed through religion, through dogma, to think that the word goddess is some evil thing, this pagan, that's pagan stuff. And they shut your mind down from really absorbing what we mean, what the mother goddess truly is. If you connect it all to Mary, Jesus's mother, Immaculate Conception Mary, she is an attribute, she is an aspect, she is the mother goddess who born in the flesh. Basically, she is an aspect of the mother goddess that's mentioned in this book. Mary Magdalene, she tells the story of Mary Magdalene. I don't want to give too much away, which I actually was so happy to see this in here because it's a story that most people do not know. I would be surprised if anybody knew it, that really heard it. And it's the story of Mary Magdalene and how she really was the daughter of a king. And she, on her road to her husband, basically, her caravan was attacked. She was kidnapped, and all these things happened to her. And it's a really important story for us to know. We need to honor these stories. We need to honor these histories, these herstories. These herstories are important, and they've been erased. They've been erased. And now to the point where women aren't even fighting to save the very definition, the very essence of who we are. They're trying to eradicate it completely from this society, this world, and I believe that through all these different agendas, all these different avenues. So these conversations are important. Again, we talk about the divine feminine, we talk about the goddess, and it's not this patriarchy versus matriarchy. The goddess has nothing to do with matriarchy. Archies are control structures, and the goddess wants freedom. The goddess wants complete and total freedom. That means no power structure, living a principled life, a life connected and in balance with nature, not one where you're born and you're immediately told that you are the bearer of sin and immediately putting all these stigmas on you and these things that don't allow you to be a proud female and connect to your divine feminine. I know for a fact growing up, if I had mentioned things about what I was really feeling, questions I really had inside, things I really picked up on, I would have been told that I was probably feeding evil thoughts because my family was very born again Christian. They were very dogmatic, very religious minded, and I wasn't. Although I loved religion and I loved church and I loved spirituality, I did not like that aspect of it, and it always bothered me. And I believe that was the mother goddess staying connected to me, keeping me strong, because as a child, I endured some traumas, and I experienced a lot of abandonment, a lot of neglect, emotional and physical. And someone was always there. In essence, a being was always there with me, guiding me. And, I spoke to someone recently about it, and they said it was almost like there was an aspect of me that was outside of myself, helping me, guiding me. It was like the divine aspect of myself became my mother, became my father. Okay. We're trying to call in. We're trying to get Marisa on the phone line. How do we? Is there a way we can switch? I can switch to the phone line, and me and her could both share a line. Is that how it works? If not, this was a good promo for our book, The Big She Bang. Unbelievable story. If you are someone who's always felt like females have been getting a bad rap, like females have been totally demonized for no reason, Eve, Mary Magdalene, all of these goddesses throughout time. Excuse me, I need to take a sip of water. Okay, Cindy, are you still on the line with her? Does she want to do that? I can call her right now and put her on speaker. That's what I'm gonna do? Yeah. All right. I know. It's hard to make a decision when all these things up in the air. Well, she didn't answer. Oh, okay. Okay. So again, oh, here she is. Hi, Marisa. No problem, no problem. I'm just glad we actually get to talk at all because I am obsessed with your book. I was telling, the listeners that I basically read like 3/4 of it all in one day, right when I got back from Disney World. And if I didn't have kids, I would have finished it all in one day because it's the best story ever. And it's an important story. Like you said, it's her story that's been written out of history, the books written by a bunch of men. And we need to get this out there into people's hands so they can connect to their divine feminine, the goddess, the mother goddess, and all of the above. So I'll get right into it. Original sin doesn't exist. Original sin does not exist because, the thing is, Eve didn't really commit an original sin. And Mary outlines that. And she even says, and this is true, that Jesus said that there's no such thing as original sin. So why hold Eve accountable? The thing about Eve, which I found so incredulous, when you go back to all the Nag source material that I basically called a lot of this book from, was that Eve was a divine spark. Eve was the daughter of Sophia, the wisdom goddess. And Adam basically was a lump of clay, and here comes Eve, called in from Sophia and God the Mother, to give Adam life. And that's what Eve does. She gives Adam life. And she's the mother of the living. And we contrast that to what we've always been told about Eve, which was Eve came from Adam's rib. Well, we're not told the whole bill of goods. We're deprived of our power. Men are deprived because they're robbed of like the woman who is empowering and part of a power couple. The thing is, when you slow somebody down in a relationship, there's an imbalance. So that's like one of the first imbalances of humanity, the making of the weakening of Eve.
And it's really quite a story when you think about it. The fact that Eve was so powerful and she gave Adam life, and she's the mother of the living. And she was a power couple. She was the actual divine spark. It was Adam who was clay, basically. He was a lump of clay until Eve animated him.
So we're basically, so we're basically living in an inversion and an inside out of the real truth. And I love the term in here called the divine correction that you use. There's a lot of awesome terminology that you use in here. And I would tell everyone how this book is awesome if you're trying to learn or connect with divine feminine, the goddess, because you don't have to, like you said, you got all your material basically from the Nag Hammadi text. Most people won't understand that language, don't understand that language in the parables and the way a lot of things are spoken. This book is amazing. It just simplifies it, but also is so deep and so just spiritually enlightening. It's beautiful. I really am impressed. I'm really impressed because I am a huge, like, I wouldn't say a Gnostic scholar, but I have the Dead Sea Scrolls. I have the Nag Hammadi text. I have the Gnostic Gospels. I'm a big. It's a hobby of mine. So you did it a beautiful justice. You really did. You really did. And I'm going to kind of jump around just because of all the technical stuff we had. I don't want the important questions. So we go through basically all from Eve, kind of the evolution of goddesses basically from the ages. And you talk about Inanna and Marduk and Moloch. And I was curious about that whole aspect of it, how they were lesser gods, or can you explain that to me, that little aspect?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say the book actually starts off with a big she bang, which wasn't a big bang, but a big she bang, right?
Yes.
And that is, we first start off with God the Mother, and she was the first power, and then she gives birth to God, and through their love, they have this gigantic, what essentially is a gigantic orgasm, and that creates the universe. So that's the big she bang. So that's how I basically think the universe was created. There was a male God and a female God, God the Father and God the Mother, and as God the Mother would tell you, she was Holy Ghosted, right?
Yes.
So I just wanted to,
No, that's important that you brought that up. I'm glad you did, because it did slip my mind that the most important aspect of the whole title of the book and the beginning of it.
Exactly, because it's the universe according to her and her friends, and some frenemies maybe show up in front of me. I would put Inanna in that category, right? Because here she is. Inanna historically is very powerful, but she's also loves her own glory fumes, right? So Inanna is the most powerful goddess in the Mesopotamian pantheon. She would say no other god comes close. She is an Anunnaki. She is the goddess of love, war, fertility, beauty. She had a temple, a ziggurat temple in Uruk, her city in Sumer, and the temple was called Iana. And she would do this ritual called Heroes Gamos, right? And that was a sacred marriage ritual where she would choose a woman, a human woman, to be the goddess, and then she would choose a male, a human man, to be the king, and they would have the sacred marriage ceremony. And I didn't realize this when I was researching Inanna, that the king was sacrificed after they had sex. They had the sacred marriage ritual, which it was a fertility ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the man was sacrificed, and I really fell in love with Inanna when I first started reading about her, and I couldn't understand why nobody really knew who she was. I mean, we know her as Ishtar,
yes,
and a few other goddesses, but Inanna, I mean, because Inanna is like the origin goddess, and she's the hardcore version of the goddess, right? She's the original.
She's when all those things are made in her image, right? Like with the circle head, and is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Exactly. So she basically uses the blood of man. God says the blood of man should never fertilize the land, and God the Mother really lets her have it and outs her for sacrificing humans. The thing is, Inanna and Marduk have a rivalry, and Inanna was the most powerful goddess. And historically, if you research on the Babylonian Sumerian gods, Marduk wants to displace Inanna, and he does. Marduk, according to King Hammurabi, who was one of his lackeys, enacts the Hammurabi Code, where women are once again suppressed and wife is a maid servant to her husband. There are all these mystic rules put in place by Hammurabi, who worshipped Marduk. And Marduk then, after Sumeria, Babylonia, goes on to become the power-hungry Egyptian god Ra. So these gods, they go from one pantheon to another. It's the same god, but they have different names. Yeah. And Ra then has the Egyptians erect obelisks all over Egypt, and they're cut from electrically resonant granite, topped with pyramid transmitters, right? And they're transmitting. This is like probably one of the first versions of mind control, where they're telling people, like, they're emitting air rays, and they're transmitting that God is like, you have
frequencies. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All these, exactly. So
suppressive frequencies, like we're under right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's happening now. Like the whole electromagnetic frequency, and everybody, they're trying to control us now through vaccines, right? And through other methods, but it's all about, and through the TV, it's like the frequency of the television is the same frequency as your brainwave, I think it's beta waves. I'm not exactly sure. I have to brush up on that, but again, it's all the same kind of mind control. And Ra it all goes back to the Anunnakis, and it goes back to Yaldabaoth, who Sophia, when she left the Pluralmen, Sophia was the wisdom goddess, right?
Yes, yes. So I have my T-shirt on, my Sophia T-shirt, because we're.
As you should, because you're the wisdom goddess. There you go. And Sophia gives birth to Yaldabaoth, who is a demigod, and the demigods and they're the archons. He gives birth to the archons, these demigod demons who are his minions, right? And the Anunnaki, and they're basically still, I believe, in some form or another in existence today. They formed the Cabal.
Yes, me too. A lot of people are under that same kind of thinking that's what we believe, that this is an ancient type of deities or influence of some sort that has kind of resurfaced and has gained all this control and power now, and is closing in, basically.
Yes, exactly. So this right now, I basically wrote this book as a warning about what's going on right now, because we can go one of two ways. We could either ascend to our unforeseen golden age and all rise up into the fifth dimension, right? The fifth dimensional ascension, or not, and descend. And which way are we going to go? So that's really what's happening now. It's either what's it going to be, the Great Awakening or the Great Reset?
Well, I'll say you're right in the parallels with this book, and that's why I think it is super important. And I wanted to kind of to bring it up because you did say in it, they've corrupted the earth, water, air, airwaves, electromagnetic waves from your TV, right, everything. Yep. And that is what we are battling now. And the way I think to bring this spark back in humanity is to bring this frequency back into humanity, like bring heaven into earth here, and the mother goddess Sophia, that's how we do it, by connecting with her.
I agree. Connecting with her, connecting with God the Mother, connecting with the mother goddess energy, because when you look at it this way, right, there are all these different incarnations of the mother goddess, different versions of the divine feminine, right? First you have like God the Mother and God the Father. Well, then the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, under Constantine, who was a terrible, terrible person.
Yeah.
I can't believe he actually was supervising the editing of the Bible, right? I mean, he killed his wife and killed his son. He's after he became Christian.
And his mausoleum is all nothing to do with Christianity. It's all Mithraism and all that. So yeah.
Good. Thank you for saying that. So he basically edits women out of the Bible. He edited God the Mother out of the Bible. He rolled back women, priestesses, and deacons, right? And then he edits very powerful stories of women that could have been in the Bible out, like the acts of Paul and Thecla. And Thecla was a very powerful saint who saved herself by self-baptizing herself, and she was an apostle to Paul. She followed Paul, and she was amazing. She jumped in when her mother actually wanted to have her thrown to the lions because her mother, Thecla, didn't want to marry somebody that her mother wanted her to. And she went to the governor and said, I order you to have my daughter burnt. Well, when Thecla was tied to a stake, the flames went the other direction and didn't even touch her. That's how powerful she was.
Wow. See, I believe that. I believe that exists, that essence, that magic. I don't know what you call it, but I believe it exists. And I believe if you are truly in your soul, in your heart, connected like that those things will happen, just like Daniel and the lions, and just like the other three who were thrown in the fires and saved. I believe that they were connected to that divine essence.
I agree. And when you're divine like that, she was a saint, nothing can touch her. She was a she lion. She was thrown into an amphitheater, and a she lion ran out, and because they wanted the she lion to kill her, and instead licked her feet. And the she lion saved Thecla by slaughtering a she bear, and then the she lion died slaughtering a he lion who was meant to kill Thecla. I mean, there are all these great stories about Thecla. She's amazing. But
so I wanted to also, I know you brought up Hammurabi's laws. Let's visit that really quick. The set of laws that basically, like you said, rolled women back and kind of made us again second-class citizens, or not again, but deemed us as basically property.
Right. Yeah. So back then, even before that, women were priestesses. They had their own temples. And here comes Hammurabi. He basically creates all these laws that enslave women and
he did this under the influence of Marduk.
He was under the influence of Marduk, who is Moloch, same god, different name.
Moloch. We talk about Moloch a lot, so that's why I wanted to make that link. Well, that's a big thing people talk about, because they know that the Cabal worships Moloch. They know that they sacrifice to Moloch.
Right. It's the same god. I mean, that's the thing. It's like these gods don't go away. They just alter their names slightly. They may have a different face, but it's still the same god, and it's still the same energy, and there's still people who worship them, whether they want to admit it publicly or not. I mean, a lot of these people who do worship these gods, who they speak masterfully, that's Freemasonry for, they're saying I worship Moloch, ha 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 ha. They're not denying it. They're saying they do, but they're treating it as a joke, so you think it's a joke. That's how they speak. It's called masterful speaking.
Oh yeah. I dig into that a lot, and I dig into this kind of whole demonization of women, and how that, like, we'll revisit now the Vatican, the Holy Roman Empire, how they put this war on women. It's really, they put a war on wise women who were a threat to their power structure, their patriarchy, that you have to go through this system to get to God. And these women practice balance with nature, harmony with nature. They were extremely spiritually, enlightened. They were wise. They lived off the land, and they were a threat. And that's why witches, this witch hunt and this demonization, calling everyone witches, happened. Are you in that same agreement that that's what that was all about? To get rid of this last vestige of goddess women who were practicing that?
I feel like there's a faction of it that is good. I agree, but I also think there's black witchcraft.
Oh, absolutely, yes. No, I don't mean now modern day witches. I mean them. The ancient, the Vatican, and those times. So calling everyone witches, and making it this thing when it was really just women who were self-sufficient, who practiced a different path. It's really sad. I feel like women have been the most persecuted people throughout history, and we don't get that recognition for it. We do on little levels, like you mentioned, the suffragettes, is on the back of the book. I read that, as in this line of kind of goddesses. And other than that, we really don't get any kind of light shined on the horrors that have been done through women. And I'm leading up to, you bring up the romanticization of rape in Greek mythology, and I wanted to visit that, and I feel like it's important because it pertains to our culture now.
Well, I agree with you, because here's the thing. That's the whole story of Persephone, right?
Yes.
The way I saw that story is Persephone's, the backstory of Persephone, and that is that her mother, Demeter, wanted to shield and protect Persephone because of the rapacious male Greek gods who just thought they could have whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. It didn't matter who they were, whether they were their sister, their niece, whatever. So the backstory with Persephone is that her mother hid her in a cave in this town called Nysa, which was so isolated nobody knew where it was. And the reason she hid her in a cave because she wanted to hide her from Zeus. And what happened was Zeus he shape-shifted into a dragon. Persephone's cave was guarded by dragons. Zeus shape-shifted into a dragon and raped Persephone when she was young, right? So Demeter wanted to protect Persephone and keep her away from all the gods. And then there's Hades, who really does fall in love with her, and she chooses to go with Hades because she felt like her mother was smothering her and babying her. I have Persephone wearing baby doll togas, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a little bit of humor here, Persephone is she's watched by the nymphs. They call her baby. They're like, she's belittled, and she wants to be her own woman. So she makes the choice to go off with Hades, and she becomes queen of Hades, right? She makes the choice to be her own woman, but she has a problem, and her big problem is that the myth of Persephone was perpetuated by these masterpieces. And these are all masterpieces that are in museums.
Yes, I've seen some of the paintings. I have a whole book of all of the, mythological paintings. Yeah.
Yeah, like the rape of Proserpina by Bernini, the abduction of Persephone, and all these are different ways of saying Persephone by Rembrandt. There's another one by Hans van Eyck, another one by Peter Paul Rubens, by Alessandro Lori, by Jean-Francois de Troyes. So all these paintings and the sculpture by Bernini, they're considered masterpieces. And she says, and through my eyes, all I see is the romanticization of my so-called rape. And when you think about it, right, these paintings were really like the media before the media.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I question that, and I say, well, if the gods can get away with rape, what does that mean? So can man? And God the Mother says, change the message, change the world, right?
Yep.
So this is what we've dealt with our whole entire history.
Anything that will perpetuate man dominating women, male over female. And it is not about regaining, say, going where women are dominating men. It's not about that. It's about finding balance and, again, revising the divine, making the divine correction and bringing that balance, because it is about balance. Balance does matter, and there are divine attributes. We're not at all like you mentioned. I reference a lot of things you say because they're really cutesy little things. How, you know, we're not leaving out the men and everything, and you give a little shout out to some guys. But it's not about that. It's about the divine feminine is the one that's been being squashed. That's the one that's been being taken out. The goddess, God, the mother, completely erased from creation stories, creation myths, all of history. And it's just not right. And we need to bring that balance back. That's what's missing. And I love, again, you said, you know, delete the mom and control the children. I think something to that effect. Go kill the mother and
kill the mother.
And the children are vulnerable, right?
Yeah,
and that's what's been happening. They've been slowly killing the mother physically, and I mean spiritually, and now they are killing the mother physically through this redefining what it means to be a woman and what constitutes being a woman.
I agree. I mean, it's crazy that this is going on right now. When you think about it too, like even in the media, right? You've got Disney. Every single storyline is the mother's dead. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah, it's true. There's no
Disney
female
always,
influence.
Yeah, Disney always kills the mother, right?
Well, I gotta tell you, you know, I, as a kid, I had, you know, my father passed when we were really small, and my mom just was going through her own stuff over it. And I suffered, say, like a lot of trauma and like neglect. And there was always a presence with me of a voice. And when I, you know, started becoming, practicing spirituality when I got older, I always thought it was my higher self that like was separated from me. And I really feel now that it was God the Mother that was there for me and protecting me and really feeding me a lot of wisdom. I grew from a lot of things that happened to me as a kid that most people get stuck forever in. And I believe that presence was with me. I felt it with me every day. That love filled me every day, and it kept me going, kept me sane. Beautiful. Yeah. So that's why I know that this is so important to talk about, to get this openness in people's minds, to get them thinking and pondering these attributes, these aspects of our world. Like you said, the media back then was paintings, was artists. It was, you know, the one storyteller. Most people didn't read or write, so they were told things through pictures or through someone telling them the story, and that left a lot of room for editing, for perversions, for twists and turns, and really reshaping characters into things that they're not. And it should bother more people than it does, but people don't even think about that anymore. They don't think about the information, where it comes from, what's the end game, and what's the real essence of what they're saying. They're trying to say. We have to start thinking.
That's why I really wanted to have all the women speaking in their own voice, right? Yeah. I really wanted Persephone to tell her story. I wanted Eve to tell her story.
And Mary Magdalene, you've got to get into that, because we only do have about 10 minutes left. And that's a story that I know nobody's heard. Nobody's heard that story.
Oh, so first of all, the thing about Mary Magdalene, right, is, did you know that Mary Magdalene was a princess?
I honestly didn't until I read it in your book, and I was surprised by that I never knew that. So I was really happy to yeah. I never knew that. No.
Yeah, she was a princess. And not only that, okay, her name was Queen Eucharis. Did you know that Queen Eucharis had a visitation from, much like the Blessed Mother, from Archangel Gabriel?
I know that from your book.
I mean, like, okay, he says, "Blessed Lady, I bring you good news. You will have a daughter." And she couldn't hear it because she didn't have ears that could hear and eyes that could see, until when she gave birth to Mary Magdalene, all of a sudden she's awake, right? And then she tells her husband, King Cyrus, that their daughter is very special. And King Cyrus, who was one of the heads of the 12 tribes of Israel, he was head of the Benjamins, did not want to have anything to do with his daughter because he wanted an heir, right? He thought, daughter, what is that going to do for me? And Mary Magdalene, as a child, also, the archons were around her. They stalked her from the moment she was born, but she also had angels around her who protected her. And when she was very young, her mother and father sent her to Egypt, to the best school in Egypt, right? And when she comes back at 16, what does her father do? He wants to marry her off to the richest man in Babylon, right? He wants to make some money off her. So what happened? A princess, her dowry, her entourage of handmaids and bodyguards in a caravan on the treacherous road to Babylon, right? What could possibly go wrong? Well, a gang of thieves stole her dowry, murdered her bodyguards, and assaulted her handmaids, who were collateral damage for, as she would tell you, the real target, me. And this is Mary Magdalene talking. She says, I was sex trafficked and sold into prostitution. I was broken in rage, but I bonded with my sisters who felt enslaved with no way out. And then she says, the satanic plan to destroy me almost worked until, and then you see this little light, this little flame, and the flame says, Mary Magdalene, on what's left of your mighty light. And she goes back, and with the money she made, she freed her sisters, the women who are also prostitutes, and then she freed herself. And then what happens is she has this epic love with Jesus, right? She says, the first time I met Jesus, it was the house of Simon, the leper in Bethany, and she brought the alabaster jar of nard oil. And nard is very much like lavender. And when this happens, she's so electric. And the way I draw Mary Magdalene is like she's got sparks flying out of her.
Yeah, I saw that. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. And she's beautiful. Mary Magdalene historically has always been, everyone's always said, is a great, great beauty with long red hair, and she wore red. And, you know, she knelt before Jesus and anointed his feet with the nard oil, and then their eyes locked. He sees who she is, and she has this love story. And of course, the apostles, Peter, did not like it, so there was this triangle with him, because Mary Magdalene was the one, not only was she Jesus' wife, right, but she was also the apostle who knew all. She was the one asking all the questions.
Yes.
And they were all really jealous of her, but she was the number one apostle, the apostle who knew all. She was absolutely brilliant.
And they say the women but now I find out that she helped free from the trafficking, they ended up also supporting Jesus's movement. There wasn't just the men, the 9, the 12 disciples. I mean, there were at least 9 women that also.
There were. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, so I want to ask about someone that said, what about Lilith? Can you visit that? I know it's not mentioned in here, at least not where I've read. Can you visit who's Lilith, and is that someone relevant to her story at all, or is that just some creation to demonize women also?
Well, I didn't really get into Lilith. I was actually thinking of going back to Lilith. And maybe another story. But Lilith apparently they say, was Adam's first wife. I felt it didn't fit with.
Never fit with me.
What's that?
And that never felt right to me. Like that whole description of Lilith, it never felt like. It felt like, again, like another demonization. Maybe that is actually, like you say, Sophia, who created Adam, and then maybe Adam wanted her to be submissive to him, and something went wrong. We don't know.
We don't know. But historically, the story with, historically, Lilith was, Adam wanted to lie on top of her, and Lilith didn't want that. She thought she should be on top. So she goes off and basically believe that she was eating the young babies. There's something about that with her.
Yeah. Oh, yes, there is. It is. There's that, and there's lullabies. That's where the term lullaby, they say, actually comes from.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right
to keep
that.
Lilith from robbing God's creations from killing babies in their sleep, because they're God's creation. Wow. So can I ask you, because I feel like you would probably have a beautiful message that you would like to tell anyone listening about what you're trying to really convey through this story.
I do, actually. I feel that when you look at the story of Adam and Eve and you realize that Eve was divine and she was the mother who gave us all life, that we have that divinity within us. And Eve was the embodiment of the anthropos, the divine human. And we all have that. And I think now is our time to activate our divinity and to rise up and to be who we're truly meant to be. And once we do that, I think we could, and we unify and stop letting the divide and conquer humanity master plan, whether it be dividing us from man versus woman, Democrat versus Republican, black versus white, and realize that the true enemy are the globalists who are trying to depopulate the planet and ruin the planet. Once we do that, we will be unstoppable, and I really pray and hope we do. So that's my message.
Wow, I really can say amen to that. That is a beautiful, that is, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, and that is really true. We are under threat, and this is a real issue, and these are, well, not just physical battles, these are spiritual battles, and it's been going on for times that we can't even conceive, for amounts of times that we can't even conceive, and it's so deep. I wanted to let you know a lot of people did comment. They had some good comments for you saying thank you. Where is our mother if our father and son are in heaven? The Bible said we came from man when we all know we're birthed from women. So, it's like, this is what I mean. This is what I mean about living in a world where we're not really seeing with our eyes, hearing with our ears, engaging with our senses, where they can tell us that we're birthed from a man when our physically here in reflection, women are the ones who give birth. And we know that, right? It's like we have to start thinking in these deeper layers and these deeper aspects of life. And I love to say this: unify and not comply. I believe that. I truly do. It's, again, like you said, it's not Democrat, Republican, black, white, liberal, whatever, conservative, this, that. Stop with the labels. These labels are closing your mind. They're keeping you trapped. They're keeping your mind completely closed, and they're cutting you off spiritually. The coronavirus, the crown chakra, that is your connection, and we have to start really engaging. And I love having these conversations. I always feel just so energized afterwards, and I learn a lot through these conversations, even if it's a book I already just read like yours. I love it, and I learn deeper aspects of it.
Well, I really wish I was able to get on. I mean, I'd love to come back.
Yeah, we can come back. Absolutely. I would love to do that. Really, really would love to do that. I would.
I would too. And I'm starting my own channel too, and I'd love to have you on. So
great. So tell our guests where they can find you. And we did put the link to the book, but you can put in your plug now if you want.
Oh, sure. I'm Marisa Acocella at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and I'm on YouTube also, and I'm going to be starting my own BitChute channel this week.
Awesome.
And I look forward to hearing from everybody. And Sophia, you're named Sophia for a reason. Sophia is the great goddess of wisdom, the wisdom goddess. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, and I will keep in touch, and we'll schedule something like that.
Okay, I would love that. Thanks again.
All right, we'll talk soon, Marisa.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was awesome. That was so great. That was a great conversation. Thank you all so much for listening. Even though there were some technical difficulties in the beginning, that was worth it. It was worth the wait. And you have been watching Truth, Freedom, and Sophia. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. All of our shows are live on thewakeupradio.com. You can catch all of our replays on Google, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and support us on PayPal. Support us through PayPal /onthewakeupradio@gmail.com. Also, we have our own new streaming platform, Uncensored, OTWTube.com. Create your own profile today, and Cash App, $ on the Wake Up Radio. And again, find us on thewakeupradio.com. Thank you so much for listening.